does USA mean? You might be thinking this is a trivial question or it's a nonsensical question. Keys to the truth, we all know what USA means. It means United States of America. It's an acronym or abbreviation for that particular name of a country. Some of you might even point out that it is part of the USA or America having been formed as a corporation. And you wouldn't be wrong in either account, but you wouldn't be entirely correct either. There is a much deeper history and a much deeper truth that has been hidden from us, occulted from us by nefarious purposes. And we need to do some digging up. We need to do some digging around, all pun intended, to try to discover what our roots really are and what these names really mean. I will be using several keys to the truth in this video. Hopefully you can detect them so that you can put them to good use in your life and in your research. This is precisely what I am attempting to convey here. I'm not attempting to convey the truth, which is quite elusive, but very powerful. I'm trying to convey the keys that have helped me and are helping me triangulate my way to discovery of said truths so that you can in turn apply them, put them to good use in your personal life, your family life, your business life, your academic life, whatever it may be, and pass them on to the next generations for the upliftment of mankind. So firstly, we have this bogus map. We know it's a bogus map. Why do we know that? First key to the truth. Do not believe a single thing they tell you. So that map is wrong just on its face right there. Second thing, USA, they tell you it's something, don't believe it, it's wrong. So you're applying the same key to the truth to both the acronym, abbreviation, or to the map. And you're blasting them immediately. It's not true. Why? Because you're liars and I do not believe a thing you say. If I speak funny, I apologize. I have dyslexia, I have a bad accent, and I also have a horrible pain in my jaw. I'll tell you more about that later, but onwards and upwards. Here we go. What is the closest map we really have of North America? I would be inclined to say it is this plasma moon map that has been exposed by a particular channel on YouTube. I'm not associated with them. I do not particularly promote them. I've come to the conclusion through my own research that is the most accurate map. Do your own research. This was told to me by someone I met many years ago who was a very high-ranking Mason. And you always have to take what they say with a pinch of salt because, you know, they are known to be liars. And but, you know, there are some, they have access to certain information that the general population doesn't. So whenever you hear something coming from a Mason, be very skeptical, but don't discard it completely. There might be some truth in it. You just have to really, you know, dismiss the nonsense and the false leads. And so this guy told me many years ago that the moon was a reflection of the Earth's surface. And from the plasma moon map, I kept researching it all the time. And, you know, I couldn't quite make 100% sense of it, but I was quite close. And when the moon map came out, I realized, oh my God, he was right all along. So this is something that I'm adding to the keys to the truth as far as geography goes. Anyway, this goes to the point of the subject of this video, which is why this place is named the way that it's named. I've already done a video on why it's called America. Okay, America, and you can check it out on my playlists. Be sure to visit all my playlists. And there's one title, a video called, you know, the origin of the name America, the real meaning of the name America. Be sure to watch that. It's, you know, it's pretty long and pretty in-depth onto what America means. I can't go into every single detail in all my videos, so please watch the other ones. Don't dismiss the information just, you know, out of hand if you haven't dived deep, and then you can dismiss it if you don't like it or use it for whatever purpose, okay? So USA, going back to USA, I've already done America, now we're going to do USA, and it's not what they've told you. So what does USA mean to you? What does it mean to me? What did it mean to the founding fathers? What did it mean to the people that started this country? Is all history fake? Is there some part of it that it's true? Like, you know, it's hard to tell. That's why you have to use different keys. And there's the reductionists that say, hey, I just read the Bible and that's my only key to the truth. That's great for you. I mean, applause to you. But is there a lot in there about how America came to be, about the name USA? No, not that I've seen. But so that's why we have to look at other useful tools and that we have at our disposal. So, for example, they give us the flag. Is that what it means? It's a Masonic flag. There's so much symbolism going on here. I'll do that on another video. They give us the Statue of Liberty, which is a statue of a deity, a fallen deity, a false idol. Again, I mean, is that what it is? They give us these buildings, these skylines, which are, in essence, a mockery of the living crystals of Lemuria and Atlantis. I've done videos on that, so be sure to check them out as well. Why do they build skyscrapers? They're also paying homage to the crystals, which make up our reality, which make up matter. And they know this full well. It's hidden in plain sight. And we the masses don't know it. But now you know it. Be sure to watch my videos, what matter is really made of. They give us this Golden Gate Bridge. Again, symbolism out the wahoo. The statue with the light bearer, which is the devil to them. And, what this means. All these buildings, which are Masonic in their architecture. And these buildings, have the same architecture that was alleged to be the Greek or the Roman architecture or Tartarian or whatever the case may be. These were the buildings that were designed for the temples of these false deities. Okay, the temples of where the false gods resided were actually living crystals like these, but they were living crystals, not dead crystals like these, like actual growing, glowing with magic. You could call it high tech. It's not high tech. It's magic. I'll do that on other videos. I'm exposing that in different videos. There's just so many subject matters, and they all intertwine. So please don't get lost in the translation here. So these types of buildings were devoted for the human priests, the magi, that were the highest class of humans, but were below the lowest class of false deities, to render their obeisance to the false deities. Anyway, so is this what America means? Not to me. Maybe to somebody, but not to me. And then we have the landscape, which is a beautiful landscape. It's an amazing landscape. And recently, I was compelled by the Most High by God to make a trip, which is a very long trip. I went across several states, and I took a series of pictures, and I spoke with the wind, as crazy as that sounds. I listened to the wind, I listened to the rocks, I listened to the mountains, I listened to the rivers, I listened to the earth itself, and I listened to God. When I didn't even plan the trip, I almost felt like a marionette of sorts, because it was a supernatural thing that came over me and made me take the trip to, garner intelligence and find out whatever I needed to find out and understand what I needed to understand, and to learn from God Himself directly through the landscape and through my heart chakra and all the chakras, what this place really is about and what happened here. And the history is very rich, and it's so much more ancient than we're led to believe. Here we have Horseshoe Bend, pretty amazing stuff. I know it sounds crazy for me to say such things, but it's the honest truth. I didn't do this. I didn't discover this. It was given to me. It was given to me. I didn't plan this. It was like I felt literally like a marionette. But you always have your free will. You can always say no. You can always refuse. And that's what most people do in their ignorance. What we do most of the time, we surrender ourselves to our minuscule ego and our tendencies, our animal body tendencies, and we renounce the Holy Spirit. And we should be doing the opposite. We should be renouncing this world, renouncing our desires, and we should be handing ourselves over to the Most High and to the Holy Spirit. Here we have the Milky Way, guys. Remember what it is. It is the tree of life itself. That's the top part of the trunk. If you haven't seen my video on what the Christmas tree really is, be sure to check it out. You can see it from all over the world, just like Daniel said in the Bible. It's such a tall tree. I mean, it might be over 100 miles, 1,000 miles tall. God knows how tall it is. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said that nobody knows how tall it is or how far it goes up or down. But it goes into different dimensions and realms. And here you can see the top part of the trunk towering above us. So we're looking down up. We can't see the bottom portion because that's inside the atmosphere. This is above the atmosphere. Even though space is not real, it's interdimensional. That's a different subject. Anyway, onwards and upwards. So what does USA really mean? What does USA really mean? Let's see. Let's see right here. Again, the key of Sanskrit is going to help us decipher this one. USA or USA really means aurora, the daybreak, early in the morning, the light of day. It also means sterile soil, dawn. Has several other meanings. Soil impregnated with saline particles, salt ground, at night, at daybreak, scorching, burning, night, morning, dawn, morning light, lover, fossil salt, saline earth, daybreak, aurora. Why so many things? Because Sanskrit, being the language of creation, the language of God, is a very rich, complex language that has over 20 billion words. It has a possibility for maybe even infinite number of words. This is such a complex language, and I've done several videos on it, so be sure to check them out, how and why Sanskrit is the first language, the language of creation. It's simple, it's perfect. It's actually named Sanskrita, which means perfect. But it is quite complex as well. You can describe anything. It has so many synonyms to each word, and each word means so many different things. It's also the language of the good angels and the fallen angels. So it's also the language of the giants. And I'll do a video on that subject alone later. Saline soil, it also means to be sick or ill, impregnated with salt. So many different things. It's also related with sun, with fire. And it also, this one's very particular. It also means harsh speech, as in usati. Do not be fooled with it by the ending ti. That's just a grammatical declination that makes it into a verb or a noun. Okay? Without that suffix ti, it's usa, which means the noun, harsh speech. Okay? So which one of these is it? Keys to the truth. Tell us. Well, you tell me. Please comment in the comment sections. Like, subscribe, share, and let me know what you think. Okay, so out of all these, which one is it? I think it's several. And when these people use a particular word in Sanskrit, they are trying to convey several meanings: double entendre, triple entendre, or more. Okay. Now, somebody asked me on a private chat the other day. Sorry, it was a public chat and a different channel. You know, I go on some channels and I just, talk around with people. I also talk with people in person. So that person asked me, well, I've listened to your videos and I've watched your channel, and I'm interested. But is it good or bad to listen to Sanskrit? I didn't have much of a chance to reply, but I'm replying now. And Sanskrit per se has nothing bad or good about it. It is the most perfect language. It is the language of creation, the language of God. But it's a tool. That can be used for good or evil. Okay, keep that in mind. So, should I listen to it or not? Listen to the good intentions. Listening to black magic or evil words is horrible. It's a horrible idea in any language, be it in Spanish, English, French, German, Portuguese. English, Serbian, Sanskrit, Hebrew, whatever the case may be. Don't listen to harsh language. Don't listen to injurious language. Don't you listen ever to black magic in any language, okay? Listen to the good stuff. Listen to the godly stuff, the stuff that uplifts your spirit. So, what is a sin? If you have reservations about using the word, don't use it. Just think about lower demonic tendencies or energies. Which ones? The ones that degrade the human spirit. That's it. And what should you do? You should do the opposite. You should do the positive, uplifting things, the things that when you're done with them, you're like, oh my, I feel wonderful, I feel beautiful, I feel enlightened, I feel uplifted. That's the divine stuff. That's the humility. That's the godly stuff. So anyway, let's keep going here. So more definitions of yusa, and you're going to find these same meanings from different sources. It's a burning, it's saline substance, it's daybreak, dawn, saline earth, early morning, dawn, cleft, fissure, acid, saline earth, different things. And when we have it in the usati, it means injurious talk or cutting speech, harsh language, okay, cussing, cursing. So whomever named the USA USA, it's very peculiar because it means all these things, and I'm going to show you more evidence to the fact. But so, I mean, who was it? The name did the settlers name it like that? That's bogus. Did the founding fathers name it like that? Maybe. I mean, they of course they know Sanskrit and they use it for their purposes because Sanskrit is so powerful that you use it to direct an intention, an intent, or a consciousness, and you try to have it manifest into reality through God. So once you know these things, like your understanding deepens and opens up to several other possibilities. Now, I've already done a video on the names of the continents, and they all come from Sanskrit. Absolutely 100%. All of them come from Sanskrit. So what does this tell you? This gives a lot of, credibility to the theory of the yugas, the ages, where there's Satya Yuga and the other yugas down to today's yuga, which is Kali Yuga, and which is the worst one, the age of iron, the age of deceit and lies and death and sorrow. And after this one, we'll go back to the beginning, to the first yuga, again, of enlightenment, of truth, which is Satya Yuga. And so if it's cyclical in nature, then that stands to reason, and the names kind of prove that theory. Because otherwise, why would the elites not have changed the names? I'm going to do another video on the countries. And every single country in this continent of America is in Sanskrit. And then I'll do the other continents. But they're all in Sanskrit. And this is pretty crazy, pretty wild, because it's kind of like damning evidence, you could say, or actually uplifting, liberating evidence, telling us there's something to this. This is true. They've kept the names. They haven't changed the names for whatever reason. Maybe they'll want to refer to them once, the resets happen. Or maybe they won't live past the resets. We don't know. There's so much out there that we won't know. But we're trying to piece together the puzzle of what happened in the past and where we are going. Again, the tree here, very, very interesting. It's in plain sight, the giant tree of life at the North Pole, aka Dhruva, aka Kalpa Vriksha, Yggdrasil, Jambu, Shaka, whatever you want to call it. So, harsh speech, what does that tell us? The First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for the redress of grievances. So free speech. But whose speech? Are they really protecting your free speech and mine? That's debatable. But in today's world, we're seeing quite the opposite. So whose speech are they defending? They're defending their free speech, not yours or mine or your neighbors. The ones that are in the club, the ones that you and I are not a part of. So they get to protect their freedom of speech and not ours. And what kind of speech do they use? Do they tell the truth? Do they say good things, godly things? No, they completely say the opposite. They say ungodly things. They say harsh things. They say lies, injurious speech, which is exactly what yusa means. Okay? So, for example, in the Bible, look up the word tongue. It's mentioned over 133 times. And, it speaks about the good and the evil of the tongue, right? The Spirit of God spoke through the tongue. You will be protected from the lash of the tongue and need not fear when destruction comes. Job 5:21. The tongue of the crafty. Though evil is sweet in his mouth and he hides it under his tongue. Your sin prompts your mouth. You adopt the tongue of the crafty. Boastful tongues. His mouth is full of lies and threats. Trouble and evil are under his tongue. This is talking about the enemy, the devil, okay, and his minions. So, for whoever would love life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. So, you can read these on your own time. I recommend them. They're very powerful, very enlightening. And you know what? You shall know them by their fruits. Once you're done reading the Bible or the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita or the Vedas, you feel a sense of calm and ease and peacefulness and godliness. And this is not true for most books. So it just shows you like if you're headed in the right direction or not. And again, guys, I'm zero dogma. I'm here just talking from experience and provability, stuff that I have evidence for. Lies, the Bible goes on and on about lies. It talks about the father of lies, who's the father of lies, and we're relating all that to what yusa, one of the meanings of yusa. One of the meanings of yusa is injurious talk, cutting speech. Okay, so that's one of them. And now I'm going to go to the different ones. Okay, there's the other ones where we see that yusa is burning, scorching. It also means aurora. I'll have to do this one on a different video because it's very, very, very long and it relates to the Grand Canyon and what it is and what it was. I've seen that possibility and I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but I'll share it with you in a different video because it's going to be a long one. But anyway, yusa is a salt ground. So it's a salt ground impregnated with saline particles that has been scorched, burned, okay? Fossil earth. Keep this in mind when I'm going through all this material, please. So, for example, Colorado, the state of Colorado, what does that mean? It means the color red in Spanish. So it was named because of its red soil that is very saline, that has a very high saline content, a very high iron content. But it's also impregnated with salt, going back to this meaning of yusa, which is a sterile soil, a soil full of salt that has been burned and scorched. But why would it have been so scorched? How did the salt get there? How did it get so red? And we have oxidation. Please watch my video on what oxygen really is. Oxygen is a form of a salt that has been through its plasma phase in the sun. Yes, there's no outer space, but the sun is taking the salt from the oceans through the giant tree of life, and then it's creating the plasmasphere that we know of as the sun, the yellow sun, yellow plasma, and then it's doing an atmospheric depositioning of that diffused energized salt that's been volatilized, and now it's raining down on us so we can breathe, so there can be fire. No oxygen, no fire. No oxygen, no computers. No cars, no nothing. There can't be any work in this dimension if there's no oxygen, which is salt. But the mystery remains, how did, the land here in the USA get so red, particularly in these states right here? And you're talking about West Texas, Colorado, the name is red, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Utah. This whole area right there is very, very red. You can even see it on this fake map. It's very dry, but it's also very salty. And it appears to have been scorched or burned by something or someone a long time ago. We don't know how long ago, but, it could be, pre-Hispanic definitely, but a long, long, long time ago. And I know there's these channels and theories that tell us that, all the mountains are made of bricks and, they come from giant buildings in the past, or all the, there used to be cities in America, North America before the settlers, and that's all fake history. There might be truth to that, okay? There might be some truth to everything. But again, we're looking for stuff where we have hard evidence for, and not just, a couple of photoshops, and some crazy ideas. Looking at hard evidence. And I know my ideas are as crazy as the next guy's, but I'm showing you hard evidence. And I consider etymological, philological evidence to be as hard as any. So keep that in mind, please. Anyway, so going back to what USA means. We, the stupid masses, are even, being mocked in the media. For example, they have this character here, Jar Jar Binks, who was, highly beloved by everybody, right? No, he's a fool. He's an idiot. He's an imbecile, like I am, like all of us are, and we are being mocked for that. And so he uses that word over and over again. He uses the word USA and Misa all the time. So what he's doing is they're showing us how stupid we are because we are the Jar Jar Binks. Listen to this.
Clumsy.
You were banished because you were clumsy.
You mightn't be saying that. Misa caused maybe one or two little bitty accidents. You mightn't be saying.
The Chronicles of Narnia, the Magician's Nephew. Chapter 5. The Deplorable Word. The children were facing one another across the pillar where the bell hung, still trembling, though it no longer gave out any note. Suddenly, they heard a soft noise from the end of the room, which was still undamaged. They turned as quick as lightning to see what it was. One of the robed figures, the furthest off one of all, the woman whom Diggory thought so beautiful, was rising from its chair. When she stood up, they realized that she was even taller than they had thought. And you could see at once, not only from her crown and robes, but from the flash of her eyes and the curve of her hips, that she was a great queen. She looked round the room and saw the damage and saw the children, but you could not guess from her face what she thought of either or whether she was surprised. She came forward with long, swift strides. "Who has awakened me? Who has broken the spell?" she asked. "I think it must have been me," said Diggory. "You," said the queen, laying her hand on his shoulder, a white, beautiful hand, but Diggory could feel that it was strong as steel pincers. "You? But you are only a child, a common child. Anyone can see at a glance that you have no drop of royal or noble blood in your veins. How did such as you dare to enter this house?" "We've come from another world, by magic," said Polly, who thought it was high time the queen took some notice of her as well as of Diggory. "Is this true?" said the Queen, still looking at Diggory and not giving Polly even a glance. Yes, it is, said he. The Queen put her other hand under his chin and forced it up so that she could see his face better. Diggory tried to stare back, but he soon had to let his eyes drop. There was something about her that overpowered him. After she had studied him for well over a minute, she let go of his chin and said, "You are no magician. The mark of it is not on you. You must be only the servant of a magician. It is on another's magic that you have traveled here." "It was my Uncle Andrew," said Diggory. At that moment, not in the room itself, but from somewhere very close, there came first a rumbling, then a creaking, and then a roar of falling masonry, and the floor shook. "There is a great peril here," said the Queen. "The whole place is breaking up. If we are not out of it in a few minutes, we shall be buried under the ruin." She spoke as calmly as if she had been merely mentioning the time of day. "Come," she added, and held out a hand to each of the children. Polly, who was disliking the Queen and feeling rather sulky, would not have let her hand be taken if she could have helped it. But though the Queen spoke so calmly, her movements were as quick as thought. Before Polly knew what was happening, her left hand had been caught in a hand so much larger and stronger than her own that she could do nothing about it. "This is a terrible woman," thought Polly. "She's strong enough to break my arm with one twist. And now that she's got my left hand, I can't even get at my yellow ring. If I tried to stretch across and get my hand into my left pocket, I mightn't be able to reach it before she asked me what I was doing. Whatever happens, we mustn't let her know about the rings. I do hope Diggory has the sense to keep his mouth shut. I wish I could get a word with him alone." The Queen led them out of the Hall of Images into a long corridor, and then through a whole maze of halls and stairs and courtyards. Again and again, they heard parts of the great palace collapsing, sometimes quite close to them. Once a huge arch came thundering down only a moment after they had passed through it. The Queen was walking quickly. The children had to trot to keep up with her, but she showed no sign of fear. Diggory thought, "She's wonderfully brave and strong. She's what I call a queen. I do hope she's going to tell us the story of this place." She did tell them certain things as they went along. "That is the door to the dungeons," she would say, or "that passage leads to the principal torture chambers," or "this was the old banqueting hall where my great-grandfather bade 700 nobles to feast and killed them all before they had drunk their fill. They had had rebellious thoughts." They came at last into a hall larger and loftier than any they had yet seen. From its size and from the great doors at the far end, Diggory thought that now, at last, they must be coming into the main entrance. In this he was quite right. The doors were dead black, either ebony or some black metal which is not found in our world. They were fastened with great bars, most of them too high to reach and all too heavy to lift. He wondered how they would get out. The Queen let go of his hand and raised her arm. She drew herself up to her full height and stood rigid. Then she said something which they couldn't understand, but it sounded horrid, and made an action as if she were throwing something towards the doors. And those high and heavy doors trembled for a second, as if they were made of silk, and then crumbled away till there was nothing left of them but a heap of dust on the threshold. "Whew," whistled Diggory. "Has your master magician, your uncle, power like mine?" asked the Queen, firmly seizing Diggory's hand again. "But I shall know later. In the meantime, remember what you have seen. This is what happens to things and to people who stand in my way." Much more light than they had yet seen in that country was pouring in through the now empty doorway, and when the Queen let them out,
through it, they were not surprised to find themselves in the open air. The wind that blew in their faces was cold, yet somehow stale. They were looking from a high terrace, and there was a great landscape out below them. Low down and near the horizon hung a great real sun, far bigger than our sun. Diggory felt at once that it was also older than ours. A sun near the end of its life, weary of looking down upon the world. To the left of the sun and higher up there was a single star, big and bright. These were the only two things to be seen in the dark sky. They were a dismal group. And on the earth, in every direction, as far as the eye could reach, there spread a vast city in which there was no living thing to be seen. And all the temples, towers, palaces, pyramids, and bridges cast long, disastrous-looking shadows in the light of that withered sun. Once a great river had flowed through the city, but the water had long since vanished, and there was now only a wide ditch of grey dust. "Look well on that which no eyes will ever see again," said the queen. Such was Charn, the great city, the city of the King of Kings, the wonder of the world, perhaps of all worlds. Does your uncle rule any great city as great as this, boy? No, said Diggory. He was going to explain that his uncle didn't rule any cities, but the queen went on. It is silent now. I have stood here when the whole air was full of the noises of Charn, the trampling of feet, the creaking of wheels, the cracking of the whips, and the groaning of slaves, the thunder of chariots, and the sacrificial drums beating in the temples. I have stood here, but that was near the end. When the roar of battle went up from every street, and the river of Charn ran red, she paused and added, all in one moment, one woman blotted it out forever. Who? Said Diggory in a faint voice, but he had already guessed the answer. I, said the queen. I, Jadis, the last queen, but the queen of the world. The two children stood silent, shivering in the cold wind. It was my sister's fault, said the queen. She drove me to it. May the beep of all the powers rest upon her forever. At any moment I was ready to make peace, yes, and to spare her life too, if only she would yield me the throne. She would not. Her pride had destroyed the whole world. Even after the war had begun, there was a solemn promise that neither side would use magic. But when she broke her promise, what could I do? Fool! As if she did not know that I had more magic than she. She even knew that I had the secret of the deplorable word. Did she think, she was always a weakling, that I would not use it? What was it? Said Diggory. That was the secret of secrets, said the Queen Jadis. It had long been known to the great kings of our race that there was a word which, if spoken with the proper ceremonies, would destroy all living things except the one who spoke it. But the ancient kings were weak and soft-hearted and bound themselves and all who should come after them with great oaths, never to even seek after the knowledge of that word. But I learned it in a secret place and paid a terrible price to learn it. I did not use it until she forced me to it. I fought to overcome her by every other means. I poured out the blood of my armies like water. Beast, muttered Polly. The last great battle, said the queen, raged for 3 days here in Charn itself. For 3 days. I looked upon it from this very spot. I did not use my power till the last of my soldiers had fallen. And the accursed woman, my sister, at the head of her rebels, was halfway up those great stairs that led up from the city to the terrace. Then I waited till we were so close that we could see each other's faces. She flashed her horrible, wicked eyes upon me and said, Victory! Yes, I said, victory, but not yours. Then I spoke the deplorable word. A moment later, I was the only living thing beneath the sun. But the people, said Diggory. What people, boy? Asked me the queen. All the ordinary people, said Polly, who'd never done you any harm, and the women, and the children, and the animals. Don't you understand? Said the queen, still speaking to Diggory. I was the queen. They were all my people. What else were they for but to do my will? It was rather hard luck on them, all the same, said he. I had forgotten that you were only a common boy. How should you understand reasons of state? You must learn, child, that what would be wrong for you or for any other of the common people is not wrong in a great queen such as I. The weight of the world is on our shoulders. We must be freed from all rules. Ours is a high and lonely destiny. Diggory suddenly remembered that Uncle Andrew had used exactly the same words. But they sounded much grander when Queen Jadis said them. Perhaps because Uncle Andrew was not 7 feet tall and dazzlingly beautiful. And what did you do then? Said Diggory. I had already cast strong spells on the hall where the images of my ancestors sit. And the force of those spells was that I should sleep among them like an image myself, and need neither food nor fire, though it were 1,000 years till one came and struck the bell and awoke me. Was it the deplorable word that made the sound like that? Said Diggory. Like what? Said Jadis. So big, so red, and so cold. It has always been so, said Jadis. At least for hundreds of thousands of years. Have you a different sort of sun in your world? Yes, it's smaller and yellower, and it gives a good deal more heat. The queen gave a long drawn aha, and Diggory saw on her face that same hunger and greedy look which he had lately seen on Uncle Andrew's. So, he said, yours is a younger world. She paused for a moment to look once more at the deserted city, and if she was sorry for all the evil she had done there, she certainly didn't show it, and then said, Now let us be going. It is cold here, at the end of all the ages. Going where? Asked both the children. Where? Repeated Jadis in surprise. To your world, of course. Polly and Diggory looked at each other aghast. Polly had disliked the queen from the first, and even Diggory, now that he had heard the story, felt that he had seen quite as much of her as he wanted. Certainly, she was not at all the sort of person one would like to take home, and if they did they didn't know how they could. What they wanted was to get away themselves. Polly couldn't get at her ring, and of course Diggory couldn't go without her. Diggory got very red in the face and stammered, Our world, I didn't know you wanted to go there. What else were you sent here for if not to fetch me? Asked Jadis. I'm sure you wouldn't like her world at all, said Diggory. It's not her sort of place, is it, Polly? It's very dull, not worth seeing, really. It will soon be worth seeing when I rule it, answered the queen. Oh, but you can't, said Diggory. It's not like that. They wouldn't let you know. The queen gave a contemptuous smile. Many great kings, she said, thought they could stand against the house of Charana, but they all fell, and their very names are forgotten. Foolish boy! Do you think that I, with my beauty and my magic, will not have your whole world at my feet before a year has passed? Prepare your incantations and take me there at once. This is perfectly frightful, said Diggory to Polly. Perhaps you fear for this uncle of yours, said Jadis, but if he honors me duly, he shall keep his life and his throne. I am not coming to fight against him. He must be a very great magician, if he has found how to send you here. Is he king of your whole world, or only of part? He isn't king of anywhere, said Diggory. You're lying, said the queen. Does not magic always go with the royal blood? Whoever heard of common people being magicians? I can see the truth whether you speak it or not. Your uncle is the great king and the great enchanter of your world, and by his art he has seen the shadow of my face in some magic mirror or some enchanted pool, and for the love of my beauty he has made a potent spell which shook your world to its foundations and sent you across the vast gulf between world and world to ask my favor and to bring me to him. Answer me, is that not how it was? Well, not exactly, said Diggory. Not exactly, shouted Polly. Why, it's an absolute bosh from beginning to end. Minions! Cried the Queen, turning in rage upon Polly and seizing her hair at the very top of her head where it hurts most. But in so doing, she let go of both of the children's hands. Now, shouted Diggory. And quick, shouted Polly. They plunged their left hands into their pockets. They did not even need to put on the rings. The moment they touched them, the whole of that dreary world vanished from their eyes. They were rushing upward, and a warm green light was growing nearer overhead.
That was a very powerful passage right there, guys. I don't know what you think. And now, that's kind of funny, that word, deplorable word. That's a quite conspicuous word, one that people don't use often. And you've probably heard this person speak it recently.
Put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Okay, so that was kind of painful to watch, but you see these elites, these demon worshippers, using these terms. And where is she getting that word from? Why is she using it? Is it making reference to, what C.S. Lewis wrote? Perhaps. Perhaps. So much to think about here, guys. Why the use of the word deplorables? And anyway, so let's. There's several other things that happen in this passages from C.S. Lewis. There's a lot going on there, and it's kind of those things where you keep going back. I've read that passage over 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and I've read it so many times. But only now am I putting the pieces together. You see, so that's the power that you have when you come before God, before Christ, in humility and knowing that you're ignorant and that you want Him to dispel your ignorance with His infinite wisdom. So, for example, she refers to her city as Charn, to her world as Charn, or that particular stately city of kings where she used to rule. In that other world, that other dimension, Charn. So, what is it? When you hear Charn, what does it ring a bell? What do you immediately think of? I think of char, which is to partially burn an object as to blacken its surface. A material that has been charred. Think of it also means to burn and become black. Okay, like charbroil, like charcoal. Some other definitions. To convert by heat, to burn, to scorch. Again, we come to this scorch, and now we start putting the pieces together, okay? And then, you can also check the meanings in Sanskrit, and this is going to give us something pretty incredible. I'm going to do this on another video. Tree root. Okay, just keep that in mind for the future. So, Charana means, among other things, it means the feet or the root of something. Okay, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because we would never end here. The root of a tree, charana. But in English, grazing, motion, foot, practicing, eating, dealing, the root, charana, the root. Okay. Anyway, in English, char means to burn, to scorch. What was one of the meanings of USA in Sanskrit? To scorch, to burn. And C.S. Lewis, we're tying the connections here, was a Rosicrucian with access to secret information, very, very prized intel that they're not going to share with us, at least not that we would detect it, but we are detecting it now through the keys. What they're hinting at is that Charn could possibly have been a city here in America, located in this area of the West, the Southwest, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, which means red, Arizona, New Mexico, West Texas, where we see the red sands, the red earth, the red rocks, the Red River in Oklahoma, everywhere. You see them everywhere you go here, and it's very salty. It's very highly oxidized and full of iron, and it looks like there's been a huge desolation that has come into place. So, what could other possibilities have been? Let's tie some more loose ends here. What is an astra? An astra in the Sanskrit mythology is a weapon. An astra is a supernatural weapon invoked by mantras, magic mantras, to summon the energy of a specific deity. It is imbued with spiritual and occult powers that cause its effect or impact. The invoked energy can be channeled into an object, and that object can be used as a weapon. Okay? So astra means a bolt, a warhead, a missile, weapon, arrow. It's a divine weapon. To summon or use an astra required use of a specific incantation or invocation, a mantra, a spell, a curse. The deity invoked would then endow the weapon with supernatural powers, making it impossible to counter through regular means. Specific conditions existed involving the usage of mantras, the violation of which could be fatal. Some of them had fail-safes, to where you couldn't use them on innocence, you couldn't use them for a malign purpose. There are some of them that were imbued with fail-safes, or they would turn back on the assailant. You just can't invoke the celestial weapons. For that, you must wield it first. You must attain it first from the deity. These weapons are nothing but various cities, which are magical powers, and sadhanas, which is your spiritual practices, whose powers are evoked by its wielder by use of mantras. History means there's been recorded instances in the Itihasa, or the history of India, where some of the astras were used, like in the War of Mahabharata. And you can look all this up. The summoning of the astras in the epics. Some of them, interestingly enough, don't appear to have been used. So why would you mention a certain like super powerful weapon that could destroy the whole world if nobody ever used it? It sounds very funny to me. It sounds like there's something missing there, like there's missing Puranas or missing histories that have been hidden from us. Which astra was never used? For example, the Parashupastra, capable of destroying creation and vanquishing all beings. Parashupastra, most destructive. Why would you like talk about it and like go into it in detail and then it was never used? But what I'm saying here is that maybe it was used. Maybe it was used, and maybe it was used here in America a long, long time ago. When? We don't know. We might never know. But it could have been used in a conflict. It could have been used in a conflict between humans. Or it could have been used in a conflict between humans and non-humans. Or between non-humans and non-humans. It could have been used between like fallen angels against titans, or humans against giants, or humans against fallen angels, or fallen angels and good angels. We might never know, but there's a lot of evidence here, guys, pointing to this destruction, this Armageddon type event, this apocalypse that might have occurred here in this very North America in a long, long time ago, in what we would refer to as prehistory. Here, I'm going to play this quick video of 5 weapons more powerful than the Brahmastra. The Brahmastra is the one that we used in the Mahabharata by Arjuna to defend from an evil person that had attacked them with the same weapon. So it was used in defense to counter it. Now, I'm not talking about fake nuclear weapons here, because remember, atoms and molecules don't exist. But that doesn't mean there's these powerful celestial weapons that don't exist. That's a completely different subject. Okay? So they read up on these, and then they created the psyop of the nuclear weapons, which don't exist. You still could theoretically garner the power of crystals and launch an attack that could destroy an entire country or continent. And there's so many parallels between the Native American people and the Native Hindu people. I mean, if you dressed yourself in a Hindu garb and painted yourself in ceremonial, you could, and if you were a Native American, you could pass yourself off as Hindu, or the other way around. If you were, Hindu and you dressed yourself up in such a manner as a Native American, you could pass yourself off as Native American. So there's similarities there. I'm not saying they're identical. There's also differences, but like most of the names of the major tribes are in Sanskrit. I'm going to do that on another video. This video is long enough. And so that's just further proof that there used to be a super advanced one world civilization at one point in time, and for whatever reason it was devastated, it was destroyed. It may have had its seat of power in here in North America. And where's the seat of power now? So so just very interesting things, and this just leads to more questions. If you go into the rocks themselves, the hematite, it's the reddish black mineral, ferric oxide, which is iron, and oxygen, which is iron, and salt, which is rich in iron. And this is what's giving, that particular red color to the red rocks. Hematite is also the most important ore of iron, has a wide variety of uses for pigments, for making iron, for metallurgy. So you can keep going with this research, and it's never ending. Okay, it's never ending. But so I hope I've given you some ideas here, and you can run with them, and develop your own ideas, and share some of your findings with us as well, like I'm sharing here with you. At the end of the day, what USA means, it depends on you, the listener. It's up to you, the human being, the woman, the man, the child, the teenager, whatever the case may be. USA, they might have a certain intent in mind when they come up with a word, or they're telling us something about our history, but you can always transmute a bad intention into a good intention, no matter what. You have that freedom that God's giving you. This is what we're about. Okay, at the end of the day, keep that in mind. You can always transmute the energy for good, for upliftment, okay, for benefit of mankind, for goodness, okay, for godly things. This is us. This is the real meaning of USA. This is the real meaning of the USA, no matter what. Okay, so guys, I've had an amazing time with you. I really appreciate you dropping by, and may God fill you with blessings, with abundance, with protection, with radiance, with love, and keep you always in His holy presence. Bless you.